Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is my review of Patriot Pirates by Robert H. Patton. It's kind of funny. So I gave this book 3 stars after I finished listening to it today, mainly because I found it such a slog to get back into it. Like every time I paused it, I would stop and like listen to music for a while or like listen to a video. And then like, oh, okay, I'm trying to finish this book. So I'd go back to the book. Like the information in it was valuable, and it showed a side of the American Revolution that doesn't get a lot of attention and was crucial to the war effort. But the way that it was focused on that just made it made it kind of tedious to follow it all. I will say that I don't think that's a fault of the writer. It's just the nature of the thread that he was tugging at to unravel like the whole mystery behind this particular aspect of American naval warfare at the time. So when the American Revolution got completely underway, like we had the Continental Army, we had ground troops and stuff, but we did not have a navy. That role was largely filled by the French. Like they had an interest in helping us out because it screwed Britain over, and they'd been beefing for hundreds of years at this point. Oh, climate protester, 4-wheel drive. But there were private sailors who owned their own vessels, and if they got permission from the government, letters of marque, they had permission then to seize British ships, which would otherwise be illegal. But hey, if you're a privateer, that means you're not a pirate. Here's a letter of permission. You get to go seek out these particular types of assets. Take ships, take gunpowder, we need cannons, gold is great, food is good, all that stuff. There were so many hundreds of ships, though, that it kind of made it difficult to follow like a through line until he got to a couple of particular mariners, Silas Deane being probably the most coherent one by the time the book reached its end. He covers the nature of this particular aspect of the war, difficulties of it, like they'd set out to find something, they'd get bounties or prizes or whatever, like, hey, we'll pay you 40,000 coins or pounds or whatever if you can find us this many tons of gunpowder, and they would try, but they could only find a certain amount, but the money was already spent, and it was like everything else, it was difficult. Inflation became a problem as well throughout the war because the Congress would just keep printing money, devaluing the currency. But that was a long time ago, and we're smarter now, and we definitely don't do that. And my grocery bill sure isn't twice what it was 2 years ago. But I digress. Anyway, I think there was value in this information. It just didn't make for a compelling cover-to-cover read. Nevertheless, I found particular interest in it for 2 reasons. One of them minor, one of them a little bit more significant. The minor one being the author's name, Robert Patton. That's just funny to me because there's a side character, like a super side character, in the book I'm working on right now, named Bobby Patton. He's one of the main character's boyfriends. Like, okay, that's just amusing to me. The larger issue is that when I published Sleepless Hollow 5 years ago, one of the lesser plot points involved, like in the very first chapter, Josie having to dig up Revolution-era treasure in Sleepy Hollow, like in a park near the river. And I've since wondered, like after I wrote that, she digs up 40 pounds by weight of gold coins. She's working with a ghost, like he tells her where it is, but since he's a ghost, like she's got to do all the digging and stuff. There's a reason for all that. I won't explain it. You should just go read the book, hint, hint. But I've since wondered, it's like, man, 40 pounds is a lot of gold. Somebody would have needed that or whatever, but maybe it could have been hidden well enough. Maybe somebody could have let it slide. Maybe one of these privateers could be interested in his own fortune, and that definitely bears out based on what Patton covers in this book. There were several privateers who performed the labors that they were hired to perform for the Congress, but they didn't get paid for it. They would spend the next several years in court. Some of them would eventually get paid, but it was in depreciated currency. Others, like they would just go to their grave never really earning or getting paid the fortunes that they had earned through their labors during the war effort. And so there's room in the historical facts for one of these pirates to have found the resources and then hidden them, and then, based on how the story plays out, he dies, but the treasure stays hidden, and you see how that all plays out. It reminds me also, there was another element of a book that wouldn't have necessarily been concurrent with this one, but if you've ever read Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton, that's a pirate novel that kind of takes place in the 1600s-ish. I can't remember the exact year. That book was supposed to come out in December of 2008, but he died in November of 2008. And so the book was delayed for a year. And I was excited to read it, and then I read it, and I was like, this wasn't very good. Like, it could have taken another run. Like, that was the book that made me realize he's not actually very good at writing action scenes. But one of the elements of the denouement, there's a court case where at the beginning of the book, the captain of the ship, he gets, I can't even remember his name at this point, he gets hired by the governor of Jamaica at Port Royal. He's given a letter of marque to become a privateer, and then he goes out and sails and does this mission and gets a whole bunch of silver and other goods. He comes back to port. The government has changed. They don't recognize the privateer permission that he was given, and they just say, nope, you weren't a privateer, you were a pirate. It's like, what the heck? And like, that happened. Not super regularly, but enough for people to be wary of, given a letter of marque that could be like later ignored. And, like, yeah, you technically had permission, but we're deciding retroactively that you didn't, and now you're guilty of piracy and not privateering like you thought you were. So there are little intricate details along the way that, like, if you were trying to study, like I said, this particular aspect of revolutionary warfare of the time, it's nice to have it all in one place. But it's one of those books that works really well as a reference and not just a barn burner page turner. And I've read historical books that are like that. They're fine. They have their value. They have their role. It's not one that I'm likely to read again unless I'm looking up something about revolutionary privateering and piracy. But if you needed to, this is a great book to do it. So on that basis, I recommend it. Just if you try to read it cover to cover, be prepared for it to be a little dry. Haha, bottom tiss. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.